Some people think the night sky full of stars at midnight is the most beautiful thing imaginable. Some people think it's a forest in snow. And some people, well, there are a lot of people with a lot of ideas about beauty and love. When you love someone a lot, they just look like love. Cinderella wished she could go to the ball, but she had nothing to wear aside from her everyday dress with the ashes and the patches and the holes. And she had not been invited. There is nothing worse than not being invited to the party. She went upstairs on the great day and helped Perlita and Paloma pile up their hair with ornaments and put on their fancy dresses, which were so long and tight they couldn't have run after a dog or climbed a fence. They were not sure they were beautiful, but they were sure that being beautiful would make them happy. Off to the ball they went, and the family coach pulled by the family horses, and down went Cinderella to the kitchen, which was very quiet. She sat by the fire, feeling very sad and alone, and staring into the fire, and cried 3 tears. It was so quiet you could hear each tear fall into the ashes with a tiny splash. "I wish someone would help me," she said out loud in the quiet. Suddenly there was a knock at the kitchen door. She opened the big creaky door, and a little blue woman was standing on the doorstep. She had a big skirt and a big nose and a pointed hat and hands like knobby blue twigs, and she was holding a stick in those knobby hands. "May I help you?" asked Cinderella, and the little blue woman said, "I came to help you. I am your fairy godmother. You wish to go to the ball at the castle, is that so?" "Yes," said Cinderella. "And then you shall go," said the fairy godmother, whose voice sounded like milk pouring into a glass and the wings of the pigeons. She said, "You need a ride. Run into the pumpkin patch and get a pumpkin." Cinderella opened the kitchen door as she was told and ran out into the night and picked a big orange pumpkin from the garden, as heavy as she could lift. The fairy godmother waved her wand, and the pumpkin became a glass coach that glittered in the moonlight. For it was a full moon night, and moonlight made the town look like a magical blue world of blue light and darkness like black velvet. The moon was reflected in the glass coach. "Oh," sighed Cinderella, and then she thought, "but you can't have a coach without horses." It was as if her godmother had heard her thoughts. "Get me 6 mice from the trap," she said, and Cinderella wondered what she had in mind. The trap was just a box that mice walked into when they smelled cheese inside, but they couldn't get out until Cinderella let them out. Cinderella would walk down to the river with the box of mice and let them go free, where they couldn't nibble at the cakes and loaves she baked. This time she opened it at the kitchen door. The fairy godmother waved her blue arm, and the tiny legs and round bodies and long hairless tails of the mice began to change. Their legs and their necks grew long. The dainty little mouse feet with their tiny toes became horses' hard hooves. Their coats became shiny instead of soft, and their round backs arched. They shivered and shouted, and suddenly 6 dapple-gray horses stood there, with black manes and tails like black rivers, black muzzles as soft as velvet, and the same round black eyes and pricked-up ears the mice had, but no mouse whiskers. They were lively horses, and they stamped and snorted and switched their tails and tossed their heads, ready to go. Cinderella was astonished. "Now," said the fairy godmother, "we need a coachwoman." "I will get the rat trap," said Cinderella. There was one big gray rat in it, and then, with another wave of the same blue arm with the same black stick, the rat was no longer a rat. It was a coachwoman with gray curls and a beautiful white velvet suit with a velvet hat, who bowed to her and said, "Good evening, young lady." "Now," said the fairy, 6 lizards from the garden, and when Cinderella brought them back in a flower pot, there was another wave of the wand, and 6 foot women stood before her in silver satin pants and jackets.